Hi, Alexander. Let's see what you've written for us today. Okay, the first one is the car sales bar chart. Let's see how you dealt with this, all right? Okay, the chart compares the volume of car sales in the thousands in 9 European countries in 2018. 3 car brands are being considered: Ford, Audi, and BMW. Okay, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. I don't know if you included the names of all 9 countries, but I can assure you that most people doing this don't. So while I like what you did here for the 3 companies, I would also suggest that you did the same thing for the 9 countries. It's really important that you mention them by name, okay? At least once. So a good place to do that is in your introduction, okay? Even if you just put it in parentheses right after the word countries and just said the 9 names. If you don't include that information, you are really running the risk of drastically slashing your task achievement score. So it's important to know what those countries are, okay? I can see that you've included a lot of them, but like I said, because most people neglect at least 1 or 2, that's a good way to approach this, okay? Let's go on. Hungary and France, we're talking about 2018. Okay, Hungary and France. So here's what I want to tell you about this. Because it's 2018 and that's now the past, you only really need to be using past simple here. I can see right away that you've used present perfect, and there's no need for that because there's no real connection to the present in here. So your tenses should all be past simple for the most part. All right, so Hungary and France have outnumbered, not have, but Hungary and France outnumbered the rest of the countries with their car sales, reporting roughly 390,000 and 310,000 respectively. Good. Germany, Ireland, and Holland showed a relatively similar trend in car sales to each other, I assume you mean, right? Yes. Okay. Where Germany sold approximately 260,000 and the other 2 countries sold exactly 250,000 each. People in Poland and UK bought fewer cars. We use fewer because it's countable. So people in Poland and UK bought fewer cars than all of the previously mentioned countries. Okay, fine. The least number of cars was sold in Italy and Belgium, accounting for around 120,000 and 90,000 respectively. Okay, good job. And I can see that you actually, I counted them, believe me. You mentioned all the countries, so great. That was very good. Your usage of the numbers was really good, so I really liked everything in this paragraph. Okay, very successful. Let's see what you did. Okay, even those 2 words, and then we don't put a comma after it because it just kind of gets stuck onto the next clause. So it should be, even though Belgium sold the least number of cars, the least number. Okay, fine. The least number of cars. Ford significantly dominated, without that N, the market, accounting for around 90% of all the sales in the country. Good. A somewhat similar trend of brand dominance was in Germany, where Audi and BMW both accounted for almost 45%, each leaving Ford with its 10% of the sales. Okay. That's it? Okay. So this was really successful, as I've already told you, but this is absolutely underdeveloped, okay? You've only, you only talked about the car sales in, what, 2 countries? So that's absolutely not enough here. Underdeveloped, and you've left out a lot of really important information. So I think you really need to spend more time here. In fact, one of the things that I would suggest is I would have suggested reducing this paragraph. There were a lot of ways you could have done that. You could have made this smaller and really focused more on this. So it's underdeveloped. I mean, you need to talk about more of these figures. One of the ways you could have done it is you could have talked about that BMW. For the most part, was between like 80,000 and 120,000 for all the countries concerned, except for Belgium, where it was negligible, really. Okay, and then you could have said, on the other hand, Audi was probably the least popular car, with its highest figures in Germany and Hungary at whatever that number is. It looks like it's about 100,000, and very poor showing in the UK, Belgium, and Italy. Okay? And then Ford was extremely popular in Holland at about whatever that is. It looks like it's about 150,000. And Hungary, whatever that is, about 150,000 again, I think, as well. And then just kind of deal with those numbers in the same way. But you absolutely needed to address those numbers a little bit more. Okay? Keep that in mind. Like I said, I really like what you did here, but your treatment of the individual car companies is just not enough, so it needs to be a little more developed. Let's take a look at this pollution essay. What are the reasons and how can we solve pollution? Let's see what you said. Pollution has become one of the most widespread problems in large cities. Especially in densely, you need the adverb form here, in densely populated places. Air, water, and soil are constantly exposed to toxic fumes, cleaning agents, and non-decomposable packaging. In this essay, I would like to cover why such situation occurred and how it can possibly be improved. Okay? Fine. Large city residents. Large city residents. It's almost as if you're saying the residents themselves are large. So careful. What you really want to say here is residents in large cities. Okay? So, residents in large cities generate a lot of waste without even knowing it. There's a difference between knowing something and knowing about something. So what you really want is knowing it. For instance, they purchase goods packaged in cling wrap or worse in thick plastic. Once these goods are consumed, their packaging goes into the bin. Furthermore, people would leave the remains. No, not they would. It's not theoretical. They do it. So, furthermore, people leave the remains of their picnics in the city parks and in the streets without caring to find the closest rubbish bin. This all leads to the fact that people are mostly unaware of the impact they cause, for example, by choosing to leave their coffee cup with a plastic lid on a city park bench. Okay, so the problem with pollution is the fact that we are reckless with our plastic use. Okay. To address the lack of education in civil waste management, city officials could organize free public sessions to raise awareness on the topic of increasing pollution, decreasing, and share the best practices on minimizing citizens' impact on the environment. In addition, city parks and streets can be declared as regulated rubbish-free zones where littering will be fine. Lastly, communities around the cities can invite residents to pick rubbish together. Pick up rubbish. In summary, city pollution is a threat not only to our environment but also to city residents themselves. Hopefully in the future people will start treating their rubbish more carefully and sharing their knowledge with the younger generation. Okay, so let's talk about the good and the bad here. The good is that your grammar and your vocabulary are all well controlled. You've done a really nice job with those elements. The structure is really good. The coherence and cohesion are all really well controlled. Excellent job. All that stuff is great. So, can you guess where I'm going to tell you the problem is? Yeah. It's in the task achievement part of it. Let's talk about why. First of all, take a look at this. What are the reasons for this? Did you give more than one reason? There's a very specific S here. Did you see that? All right, so what did you really talk about? You essentially talked about one reason, and that it's basically the use of plastic and our kind of unconscious use of it and our littering. All right, so that's, while it's really well written, you expanded on it and everything, you could get an examiner to say, okay, well, that's just one reason. We asked for reasons. All right, keep that in mind. The IELTS is really tricky a lot of times with these plurals, so they haven't asked you one reason. If you could argue that this is more than one reason, okay, maybe you could. But from what I could tell, it's essentially one reason that you've just really developed. Now, other thing that I want to mention here is your solutions paragraph. It felt very much like a list to me, and this is something that a lot of people do when they're writing these problem and solution essays. They treat the solutions like a list. So they tell you, all right, what are the solutions? They are A, B, C, D, and E. But that's not a paragraph. So what you need to do is you actually need to support each of the solutions you present. How? By saying how this would help solve the problem. Okay? So, share the best practices. Okay, what would this happen? How would this help the problem? Okay, it might seem really obvious to you. You might think, well, Ellen, obviously, that you have to raise awareness and then people will be informed. Okay, but I need you to say it. You should never assume that the examiner knows what you're trying to say, knows what you're talking about. You absolutely have to, like I said, support, illustrate, and explain why your solution would be a solution to this problem. Okay? Even here, I mean, even though it seems so obvious, they can be declared as regulated rubbish-free zones where littering will be fined. Okay, great. Then this will provide incentive for people to be more aware and reduce the amount of litter they leave behind. Okay, something really that simple, but that's exactly what you need to do, because otherwise, like I said, the paragraph comes out like a list, and you absolutely don't want that. Okay? And this too, again, communities around the city can invite residents to pick up rubbish together. So this has multiple goals. Okay, so you're creating this community environment, but at the same time, increasing awareness and knowledge in the community, and even a sense of responsibility for the rubbish that we each leave behind. And this would help solve the problem. All right, by creating more awareness. So, that's my feedback about this essay. A lot of things I really, really liked, but there are a couple of issues that I want you to be aware of. So go ahead then, Aleksandr, and correct these essays, return them to us corrected, error correction list, and let's see what you write next, okay? Keep in mind what I said about the questions with those plurals and so forth, and about the problem and solutions and avoiding lists, all right? Good job, and let's see what you write for us next time. Good luck.